Hello, and welcome to NJ.com's live chat with TV writer Vicki Hyman. Today we'll be talking about the long-awaited Breaking Bad prequel, Better Call Saul, as well as two network shows, Allegiance and Fresh Off the Boat. Vicki, say hi to everyone.
Hey, everybody.
All right, Vic, we've got a lot to get to, so let's get right into it. Better Call Saul is probably the most anticipated show in years, right? Wouldn't you say that's correct?
I don't know if I'd say the most anticipated show in years, but certainly of the year, yes.
Of the year. Briefly tell us what it's about.
Well, it's a prequel of Breaking Bad, focusing on Saul Goodman before he becomes Saul Goodman. So it's star Bob Odenkirk, and he plays sort of a he's a down on his luck lawyer. He's like scraping by. He's doing public defender stints for $700 a pop and representing, low lives, but not as low life as Saul Goodman's clientele will become. And it's about how he became the fast-talking, motor-mouthed lawyer to criminal kingpins that we all know and love.
All right, well, I want to let everyone know we're going to try to be as spoiler-free as possible. You've seen 3, I've seen 3, and I have to admit, after watching the first episode, I didn't really know how I felt. And that said, first episodes of new shows can always be tricky because they have a larger task at hand with introducing characters and stuff. But I felt that the first episode, while very good, was kind of feeling its way in the dark a little bit. What were your initial first impressions?
I didn't actually feel that way. I felt that the creators, Vince Gilligan, who created Breaking Bad, and Peter Gould, who was his co-producer, they just have a vision for the show, and they are very leisurely but very purposefully going about what they want to present to the audience. I think the thing that's going to surprise some people is that they haven't talked a lot about what the show is going to be. I think people expected, Saul Goodman's going to be like half-hour sitcom maybe. God forbid it's going to be case of the week, Saul Goodman's, the practice kind of thing. And it's neither one of those things. It is entirely its own. It is a dramedy. So there are dramatic elements, there are comedic elements, like Breaking Bad, certainly Breaking Bad more in the beginning than how dark it got at the end. And I thought it was just very sure-footed, very interesting. The opening sequence I just adored. Can I talk about the opening sequence?
Vicki, you be the judge. Of
Okay.
course you can. Yeah, go right ahead.
Opening sequence actually starts after the events of Breaking Bad. So Saul Goodman is now in his new life in Omaha, Nebraska, and he is sort of shuffling through his days as manager of a fast food mall restaurant, eatery, and it's a silent take, which is kind of amazing considering how much Saul likes to talk. And at the very end, he goes home to a sad little life, and he drinks some whiskey and pops in a VHS tape of Saul Goodman's TV commercials. And the look on his face as he's watching it, again, just completely silent, you hear Saul's voice in the background, the look on Bob Odenkirk's face is just amazing, like cycling through, despair and regret and pride in what he was. It was really lovely. And then it goes back to Albuquerque in the early 2000s.
It was a perfect beginning for this series. But I do want to ask you, beloved fans, even though they're anticipating the show, is it understandable that some of them may be nervous if this if it tanks, if it's too tongue-in-cheek, if it turns into a cameo of the week, does that cheapen the legacy of Breaking Bad?
I don't think so. I mean, I think Breaking Bad will always stand on its own as one of the best TV shows ever. It's a remarkable achievement, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Vince Gilligan is a genius. I think he knows exactly what he's doing with the show, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of skeptics out there. But even so, even if it turns out to be god-awful, which we've seen the first 3 episodes and it is not.
It is not.
I don't think that the way they're doing it, because Walter White isn't going to show up, or if he shows up, he's not going to show up anytime soon. I don't think they're going to do anything that's going to hurt Breaking Bad.
Will viewers who never watched Breaking Bad enjoy Better Call Saul?
I think they will. I think that people who are Breaking Bad fans are going to enjoy it more, and they're going to get there are some callbacks. There are big callbacks. They have some of the same characters from the show, and there are these little callbacks that if you're really like a TV geek like I am, you'll see this punched in trash can that you're thinking about all the times that Walter White, frustrated as he is, punch some metal.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these, I wouldn't call them Easter eggs, they're just sort of like callbacks. The tone is kind of similar, but it's really great for fans. I think it stands on its own.
Yeah, I want to say that the cinematography still feels the same. I mean, they're still using the city as a character. You still hear that twang of music in the background, and it's obvious that the network is betting big that this is going to become their next event show.
Well, they gave it a second season while they were still filming the first one.
I mean, that is huge confidence in the show. Real quick, tell everyone why they should not watch this, if there is a reason.
Well, people who are used to, sort of network shows that are very conventional. Maybe some people do not like unconventional shows. Like my mom, hey mom, I love you, but this is not your show. There is, it opens. Saul Goodman is representing, some people who've done some pretty gross, horrible things, and that is evident in the first episode. That might turn some people off.
Right.
If you like, interesting, this is a little bit gritty dramas with, very dark comedic elements. This is a great show. But, if you're an NCIS fan, probably not.
Right. Well, we'll try to re-explore this show maybe at the midway point of the season. Next up, we'll be talking briefly about two new shows that debuted this past week.
Mm-hmm.
The first, Fresh Off the Boat. Vicki, there's been some controversy over this show, courtesy of Eddie Huang, who wrote the memoir upon which this sitcom is based. And he also provides the voiceover narration. What's his issue with the show?
Well, he's pretty profane. He's pretty frank in his memoir, which is about growing up in Orlando as a Taiwanese American kid. Didn't fit in, was really into hip hop, and his kind of crazy family. And he felt that when he signed it over to network television that, yes, it's going to be probably, toned down. I think the word he used is pasteurized a little bit, but he wanted to bring a story to a bigger audience. And he was kind of unhappy with how ABC was doing this and making it sort of like very generic Asian American jokes when his story is very, very specific. And actually, he wrote this very long, pretty brutal story about the whole process in New York Magazine right before the show launched. And in the end of the story, kind of comes around and saying, well, it's a big triumph anyway, even if it isn't the show that I had anticipated. But it's kind of rare for, he's also a producer of the show, kind of coming out and saying, not so happy with the show.
Wow.
Right,
I mean, is he right in thinking that? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he is right. And the show is a little, it's broader than I'm sure he would like it to be. I don't think it's very specific to his memoir, very specific to, his experiences. It is more general, but it's still funny. I still really enjoyed it.
Well, how does it jive with the rest of ABC's slate of sitcoms? I mean, we all know we have Modern Family, kind of set the bar. We have Blackish, now Fresh Off the Boat. Is this like a new pattern ABC is kind of segmenting their sitcoms? What do you think?
Well, it is very much in the mold of Blackish and Modern Family. You have, this sort of extended family. They actually even have the same sort of dynamic, the mother and father on a Fresh Off the Boat, as the same dynamic. You have the sort of go-getter woman, the sort of like more laid-back dad. There's the extended family. The grandmother in Fresh Off the Boat doesn't even speak any English. Has got this sort of like great, grumpy, obnoxious comments that Lawrence Fishburne's character makes in Modern Family, in Blackish. So it is kind of very similar. I can't imagine them doing this again with an Indian American family or a Native American family, because that would just seem like way too pandering. But
they can do the Italian family from Brooklyn. That would probably work.
It works very well with them, is what I'm saying.
Give us one reason why people should watch this.
It's really funny. It's told from the point of view of the son, who is Eddie, but I think the parents are really hysterical. Constance Wu as the mother is the way she has this distrust of, kind of all things shiny, new, and American. She wants her son to succeed. She's not when her son is very happy to come home with A's, like straight A's, she doesn't congratulate him. She goes to school and says, it's too easy for him. Why is it, you should make school harder. And it's kind of sending up the whole Tiger Mom thing, but, she does a really good job with it.
All right, and if one reason why people shouldn't watch this.
Oh, a lot of people just aren't fans of, sitcoms where things are sort of tied up very neatly in the end. It's hard for me actually to make time to watch sitcoms. I tend to focus on stuff that keeps my attention over the long haul. That's just my personal taste. So a lot of sitcoms, that even the ones I like, end up falling off the radar. So if your schedule's already packed, maybe this one's not going to, find a place for it.
Okay. Our next show, NBC's Allegiance. Yep. It's a program in which Russian sleeper agents are embedded in a center of American power. Mm-hmm. Now, that sounds to me like another show on TV. How is this different from The Americans on FX?
Well, Americans, which is set in Washington, D.C. This one's set in New York. Americans is a period piece. It's set in the early 80s. It's the main difference, I think, besides the period, is that the spies are very active, and they believe in their cause. Whereas in the current show, Allegiance, you have sleeper agents who are seriously dormant, asleep. They weren't. Hope Davis plays Katya, who is a Russian student whose father turns out is in the KGB and drafted her into it. And she she falls in love with an American guy and sort of drafts him too. And then they have to give their oldest daughter up to the KGB as well, so she's also a spy. But then, with everything going on in Russia, I guess, they kind of went dormant, and they were very happy to be dormant. So you don't have the same sort of allegiance to Russia as you do in the Americans.
Well, the main problem you had with the show had nothing to do with any similarity to the Americans. You refer to it as, and I love this, savant fatigue. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the younger child of this couple, actually it's the middle child, is one of these. He's sort of maybe Asperger's. He's got some anxiety issues. He's got total recall. He's got all these kind of geek superpowers. And so he actually goes into the CIA, and because of the family's Russian background, he's an expert in Russian affairs. And so he's sort of drafted. She's drafted by the CIA in New York to sort of try to combat this big terrorist attack that they think the Russians are plotting. And meanwhile, the Russians want his parents to draft the son into what is now called, I think, the SVR. It's not the KGB anymore. To sort of get whatever intelligence they can out of the American side. And this kid, it's just annoying. He can rattle off different things about thermochemical reactions. He remembers exactly where his mother was in 1992 to disprove something that she said. It's why can't somebody just be good at their job anymore? Why do they have to be this special freaky kind of perfect Sherlockian guy? Can't they just be good at their jobs?
Well,
it's distracting.
Given all of that, do you think it's still worth watching?
Yeah, it's still worth watching. It's a pretty good show. That part annoys me, but I really love watching the parents. It's Hope Davis, as I said before, who's this indie movie queen, and Scott Cohen, who I'm a big Gilmore Girls fan. He was Max in the Gilmore Girls, and they're just likable actors who want to see more of them, and it's really fun because they're they're in their late 40s, and they're sort of going back into the spy game, and that's just fun to watch.
All right. Well, real quick, what are you looking forward to in the upcoming week?
Well, we have the Grammys on Sunday, but if you're not into that, HBO has The Jinx, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst, which is about a wealthy and very weird real estate developer whose first wife disappeared, and then whose longtime friend was found murdered, and then whose neighbor was found dead in Galveston Bay, or bits of him were actually. And Robert Durst admitted to killing the neighbor in self-defense, but he was acquitted. So there's a lot of, as they say in the promos, there's a lot of smoke around this guy. Is there fire? And the amazing thing is that he totally participated in the documentary. So it's pretty interesting. That's Sunday night at 8 p.m. on HBO.
Okay.
And then I actually haven't watched this one yet, but it's getting a lot of press. It's called The Slap. It's an NBC's event series, which is a fancy word for miniseries, and it's about a family party in which a parent slaps another person's misbehaving kid and the ramifications thereof. I think actually it looks kind of pretentious and unlikable. My editor says he's read the book on which it's based, on which it's based, and tells me to give it a chance. And that is Thursday night at 8 p.m. And finally, Top Chef finale, Wednesday night, 9 p.m., down to two great chefs, May and Gregory. And while the season's been pretty light on interpersonal drama, the cooking is as great as ever, so I, of course, am looking forward to that.
All right, well, Vicki, that about wraps it up for us. Join us next week for another TV chat. Until then, visit NJ.com Entertainment for all of your features and entertainment news in New Jersey. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.